If Regina knew one insult would turn her into a walking embarrassment, farting without control everywhere she went, she would have swallowed her pride that morning. People in the city knew Regina Madu for only two things, her beauty and her bad attitude. As the only daughter of Mr. Madu, one of the richest men in the state, she grew up believing the world should bow whenever she walked past. And truly, people always stepped aside for her. Until the day she met the wrong woman. It happened on a bright Saturday morning at the gate of her father's luxury estate. Regina had just returned from a night party, hair scattered, sunglasses on, and attitude high. A tired old woman stood near the gate, holding a small basket of herbs. She looked harmless, just another poor woman trying to survive. But Regina didn't care. When the woman mistakenly brushed her shoulder while trying to cross the road, Regina exploded. "Are you blind?" She shouted. "Do you know who I am? Don't ever touch me again, dirty woman." The guards and bystanders froze in shock. The old woman stood quietly, her eyes full of pain that didn't come from the insult alone, but from something deeper, something older. She simply whispered, "My child." The mouth that mocks the poor will one day cry for help. Her voice was calm, but there was something unsettling about it. Regina hissed loudly, "I beg shift. Nobody asked for your village proverb. How dare you touch me with your filthy hands, you old dirty woman." The old woman simply bowed her head and walked away slowly, disappearing into the nearby street. Regina laughed and entered the compound, not knowing that those few seconds had already changed her destiny. Later that day, inside her father's mansion, the humiliation began. Regina was brushing her hair when she suddenly felt a strange pressure inside her stomach. Before she could react, a loud, embarrassing fart escaped. She laughed at first, thinking it was normal, but then another followed, and another, louder, non-stop. She tried holding it in, but her stomach twisted sharply, forcing more out. "Jesus, what is this?" she cried, covering her nose as if it wasn't coming from her own body. She rushed downstairs to call her father for help, but as she stepped into the living room, "Piare," the sound echoed across the marble floor. Her father's business partners, who had come for a meeting, stared at her with wide eyes. Regina froze in shame. Her father's face dropped instantly. Mr. Madu had never looked so embarrassed in his life. "Regina, what is this nonsense?" he whispered angrily. I don't know." She whispered back, shaking, but before she could explain, another mighty blast left her. This one was louder than all the others. One of the businessmen stood up immediately. "Sir, maybe we should continue this meeting another day." The men packed their documents and hurried out, covering their noses. Mr. Madu felt his chest tighten. One moment of shame had just cost him millions. Regina watched everyone leave, her legs shaking, her pride melting like ice under the sun. For the first time in her life, she felt truly powerless, and she had no idea. This was just the beginning, because somewhere in the town, that same old woman was holding her basket of herbs, staring into the distance, whispering, "Let the child learn." Regina locked herself in her room for the rest of the day, shaking with embarrassment. She kept pacing from one end of her wardrobe to the other, trying to make sense of what was happening to her body. She had never experienced anything like this before. It wasn't normal, it wasn't funny, and it definitely wasn't something she could hide. Every time she tried to calm down, the same strange pressure returned, reminding her that something was terribly wrong. Downstairs, her father was in the living room, holding his head in silence. Mr. Madu was a man who cared about two things, his empire and his reputation. And what had happened earlier was more than just embarrassment, it was public humiliation. His business partners had already started sending polite messages, pretending everything was fine, but he knew their minds were already thinking differently. A billionaire's daughter behaving like that. People would talk. News would spread. When Regina finally came downstairs, her face was pale. She kept her distance from her father, afraid of what he might say. "Daddy, I need to talk to you," she whispered. Mr. Madu looked at her with tired eyes. "Regina, whatever is happening to you must stop. Immediately. Do you know what this has cost me today? I didn't do it on purpose," she murmured. "Something is happening to me. Something I can't control." Her father stared at her for a long moment. And for the first time, he saw fear in his daughter's eyes. Real fear. He took a deep breath. "Fine. We'll go to the hospital tomorrow morning. No arguments." But as Regina nodded, something else began troubling her. A small memory flashed in her mind, the old woman at the gate. The way she looked at her, the strange calmness in her voice, the quiet warning she gave. Regina tried to shake the thought away, but it clung to her like cold water. Later in the evening, when Regina went to the dining room to eat, the housemates avoided looking at her directly. They moved awkwardly, whispering among themselves. Regina felt her cheeks heat up with shame. For once, she didn't shout at them. All she wanted was to disappear. As she sat at the table, her phone buzzed. Messages and notifications flooded in. A video was circulating online. Someone from the compound had secretly recorded the scene from earlier, capturing her moment of embarrassment. Regina's hands trembled as she read the comments. People were laughing, some were mocking, some were shocked. Everyone was talking. Her heart broke slowly. Piece by piece, she dropped the phone on the table and covered her face. In that moment, she wished she could turn back time. Just one day, just one insult, just one choice. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the city, the old woman sat outside her small house, grinding herbs in a clay bowl. Her eyes were calm but heavy with emotion. She whispered softly to herself, let the child feel what she never allowed others to feel. But there was something else in her expression, something deeper than anger, something painful, something connected to a secret she had been carrying for many years. A secret that tied her fate to the Madu family in a way Regina would never imagine. The next morning, Regina barely slept. Her pillow was damp from tears, and her eyes were swollen from crying. For the first time in her life, she woke up quietly, no shouting at the maids, no ordering people around, no loud music, just silence and fear. She got dressed slowly, avoiding the mirror because she couldn't stand to see the girl she was turning into. When she and her father arrived at the private hospital, the nurses greeted them with forced smiles. Everyone had seen the viral video. They didn't say a word, but their eyes said everything. Regina could feel judgment everywhere she turned, and it pierced her pride like needles. She kept her head down. Inside the examination room, the doctor ran several tests. Regina sat on the edge of the bed, praying silently. She wanted answers, medical answers, something simple, something fixable. The longer she waited, the more her hands shook. The doctor eventually returned with a confused expression. Mr. Madu, the results show nothing unusual. No infection, no digestive issue. Nothing we can treat with medicine. Regina's heart dropped. So what is happening to me? She asked quietly. The doctor cleared his throat. Medically, there is no explanation. He exchanged a worried look with her father before adding, I suggest you consider alternative causes. Alternative. Regina frowned. What does that mean? The doctor didn't respond directly. He simply said, whatever this is, it is beyond medical science. Regina's eyes widened. Her chest tightened with panic. Daddy, let's go home, please. As they walked out of the hospital, paparazzi were already waiting outside. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and Regina felt the world closing in on her. Mr. Madu's security team pushed through the crowd, but damage had already been done. By afternoon, news blogs were already posting headlines about her strange condition. Back at home, Regina sat alone in her room, hugging her knees. She kept replaying the old woman's face in her mind. Something about the woman's eyes refused to leave her memory. The calmness, the sadness, the quiet authority, and that strange statement, the mouth that mocks the poor will one day cry for help. Regina felt her stomach twist, not from the curse, but from guilt. Later in the evening, her father entered her room. He looked older than he did yesterday, as if the stress had added years to his face. Regina, he said quietly, is there something you're not telling me? She swallowed hard. Daddy, I think it started after I insulted an old woman outside the gate yesterday. Her father froze. What old woman? I don't know her, Regina whispered, but she said something strange. And then she walked away. Mr. Madu stood still, his jaw tightening. A dark thought crossed his mind, one he didn't want to voice aloud. He turned to face the window, his hands trembling slightly. Regina, he said slowly, we need to find that woman. Regina looked up at her father for the first time that day. Do you know her? His silence was the answer. Something heavy settled between them, an unspoken fear, a connection neither of them understood yet. Somewhere in the city, the same old woman paused while sweeping the front of her small house. She lifted her head and stared into the distance, as if she could feel the search already beginning. Regina barely touched her food the next morning. Her mind kept drifting back to the old woman she insulted. Her father watched her from across the table, noticing how quiet and shaken she had become. It was the first time he had ever seen his daughter look truly humbled. The pride and boldness she carried everywhere had melted into confusion and fear. Mr. Madu cleared his throat gently. We are going out, he said. Today, We start looking for her. Regina's stomach tightened. Daddy, are you saying she truly did something to me? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he wiped his glasses slowly, a sign he used whenever he was hiding something. All I'm saying, he finally said, is that not every problem can be solved with money or hospitals. He didn't look at her as he spoke. He didn't need to. The weight in his tone was enough. Regina felt a cold shiver travel down her spine. Her father knew something he wasn't ready to explain yet. They drove to the estate gate first, hoping to see the same woman there. The security guards were nervous when they saw Mr. Madu step out. He rarely showed up at the gate himself. Oga, good morning sir, one of them greeted, trying to stand straight. About yesterday, we didn't know someone was recording. I'm not here for that, Mr. Madu said sharply. That old woman, where does she stay? The guards exchanged confused glances. One of them scratched his head. Sir, she's not from around here. She just passed by. We don't know her. Regina felt disappointment pinch her chest. She hoped this would be easy. She hoped she wouldn't have to relive the shame or talk to more people who had seen the video. The thought alone made her want to hide forever. But her father wasn't giving up. Get in the car, he said calmly. We'll check the nearby streets. For hours they asked traders, cyclists, and pedestrians. Some people recognized Regina from the viral clip and avoided eye contact. Others whispered behind her as she passed. She felt every stare like a slap. Slowly, her confidence drained, leaving her exposed in a way she had never experienced before. Her father noticed her discomfort and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Don't worry, we'll find her, he said. But even he sounded unsure. By late afternoon, they entered a quiet neighborhood. Old buildings, cracked walls, and tiny shops lined the streets. Regina began feeling strangely uneasy. The air felt heavier. A young boy selling oranges pointed towards a narrow walkway when shown a picture of the old woman someone had sketched for them. I see her there sometimes, he said softly. She stays in that area. People say she doesn't talk to anyone. Regina's heart pounded hard as they followed the direction. Every step felt like walking closer to something she wasn't prepared for. They reached a small compound with peeling paint and rusted roofing sheets. It didn't look like a place anyone connected to a billionaire family should be near. Yet something about it felt familiar, almost painfully familiar. Just as they stepped through the gate, Regina froze. Standing at the entrance of a small room was the old woman herself, calm, expressionless, as if she had been waiting for them all along. Her eyes rested on Regina first, then slowly shifted to her father, and for a moment, Mr. Madu could not breathe. For a long moment, no one spoke. Regina stood behind her father, her chest rising and falling quickly. The old woman didn't move either. She just watched them with calm, steady eyes that held too many stories inside them. It was the first time Regina truly looked at her. Not as a poor stranger, not as someone beneath her, but as someone who suddenly seemed powerful in a way she couldn't understand. Good afternoon, Regina said quietly. It was the softest her voice had ever sounded. The old woman's gaze shifted back to Mr. Madu. So you finally brought her, she said, her voice calm but firm. Not a question, not surprise. Almost like she had been expecting this moment. Regina turned to her father quickly. Daddy, she knows you. Her father didn't answer immediately. There was something uncomfortable in his eyes, something that told Regina this was not the first time he had seen this woman. Madam, he said slowly, whatever happened, we are here to talk. The old woman stepped aside and motioned for them to enter her small room. Regina hesitated, shocked by how tiny the space was. Just one bed, a table filled with herbs, and a small stool. It didn't match the woman's energy at all. She seemed too significant to live here. When they sat down, the old woman looked directly at Regina. Before we talk about your condition, she said, you must understand why it started. Your father understands. But you don't know the truth yet. Regina's eyebrows knitted together. What truth? She asked carefully. The woman didn't reply immediately. Instead, she turned to Mr. Madu. Tell her, she said. Tell her what your family did. Regina's breath caught. She looked at her father, expecting him to deny it. But he didn't. He dropped his gaze to the floor. Regina felt her stomach twist with a different kind of discomfort, not physical, but emotional. Daddy, what is she talking about? What did we do? Mr. Madu rubbed his forehead, his voice low. Regina, years ago, before you were born, our wealth didn't come from the clean business you know today. My first breakthrough. It came from someone your mother and I betrayed. Someone we should have helped. The old woman nodded quietly. Regina's heart sank. The room suddenly felt smaller. So, What does that have to do with me insulting her? She asked, pointing toward the woman. The old woman leaned forward. Because the person they betrayed was my daughter. Regina's lips parted slowly. Her father inhaled sharply, but he didn't deny it. Not even a little. Your parents left her with nothing, the old woman continued, and she died out of hardship. I raised her alone. I begged for help, and I was pushed aside. The silence that followed was heavy. Regina looked at her father in disbelief. Daddy, is this true? He closed his eyes. Yes. Tears gathered in Regina's eyes, not from embarrassment this time, but from shame she didn't even know she could feel. I didn't know, she whispered. The old woman's voice softened slightly. I didn't curse you to destroy you. I cursed you to humble you, because your arrogance reminded me too much of the people who destroyed my child. Regina swallowed hard. This wasn't the story she expected. She thought she was dealing with an angry stranger. She never imagined it was about a wound her family created long before she existed. The old woman looked at her one more time. Your suffering is not punishment. It is a lesson. And the lesson is not finished yet. Regina blinked, confused. What do you mean? The old woman didn't answer. Regina held the small bracelet in her hand. It was old, simple, but felt heavy, like it carried years of pain. The old woman stared at her steadily. This bracelet belonged to my daughter. Angela, she said. Mr. Madu lowered his gaze. Yes, Regina, it's time you knew the truth. The old woman continued. Angela created a business idea, something that could have changed her life. She trusted your father with it, believing he would help her build it. But he took her idea and used it to build his company. Her dream was stolen, and she died trying to survive after the betrayal. Regina's hands shook as the words sank in. You used her idea. You betrayed her. Mr. Madu's voice was low, filled with guilt. Yes, I built everything from her work. I didn't think about the consequences for her, and I kept it secret for years. Regina felt her chest tighten. And this curse, it's because of her? The old woman nodded. Yes. Your insult yesterday brought all of it back. The curse is a lesson. You must face the truth, acknowledge what your father did, and make it right. Regina looked down at the bracelet. So, what do I do? Take it to the place where your father first used Angela's idea, the abandoned compound where he betrayed her, the old woman said. Only then will the curse start to lift. Mr. Madu spoke, his voice shaking slightly. It's on the edge of the city. That's where it all began. Regina clutched the bracelet tightly. Then we go there. Now. The old woman nodded. And know this, what you do there will decide whether the family can heal. There's no turning back. The drive to the old compound was quiet. Regina sat in the back seat beside her father, holding Angela's bracelet tightly. She didn't speak. She didn't know what to say. For the first time in her life, she wasn't angry because someone offended her. She was angry because she finally understood the weight of her father's actions. Mr. Madu stared out the window, his face heavy with regret. He had built an entire empire on a stolen dream. And now, his only daughter was paying the price for it. When they arrived, Regina stepped out of the car slowly. The compound looked abandoned just as the old woman described. The walls were cracked, the roof had fallen, but the moment Regina walked closer, she felt something shift inside her, as if the place carried emotions that had been trapped for years. This is where you met her? Regina asked quietly. Yes, her father replied. Angela used to come here to work on her ideas. She trusted me. She believed I would help her. Regina entered the building. Dust coated the floor, and broken furniture was scattered around. But in the corner, she noticed a small wooden table. On it lay faded papers, old sketches, scribbles, and notes. She picked one up carefully. It was a rough draft of a business concept. The same idea her father built his empire on. Her throat tightened. She really created all this. She did, Mr. Madu said softly. Everything started from her mind. Regina's fingers shook. She couldn't believe how one person's stolen idea had created wealth for her family and pain for another family. She walked deeper into the room, feeling the heaviness of what happened here. She imagined Angela sitting at this table, full of hope. She imagined her heart break when the idea was taken. Regina faced her father. Daddy, this place, it feels like she never left. I know, he whispered. I have avoided coming here for years. Regina looked down at the bracelet. She deserved better. Both of you made mistakes, but she didn't deserve to die with her dreams buried. Mr. Madu nodded, tears forming in his eyes. I know. That's why we're here. We must fix what we can. Regina walked to the center of the room. What happens next? Her father pointed to a spot near the table. The old woman said, "You must return the bracelet where Angela spent most of her time." This was our workspace. This is where everything started. Regina knelt, placed the bracelet gently on the dusty floor, and closed her eyes for a moment. She felt a wave of emotion rise, shame, empathy, sorrow, and a strange kind of strength. For the first time in her life, she wasn't acting spoiled or proud. She was taking responsibility. When she stood up, something unexpected happened. Her farting suddenly vanished. "It's working," Regina whispered. Regina and her father left the abandoned building. The streets were busy, but neither spoke. Finally, Mr. Madu broke the silence. "Regina, you need to know the full truth. Angela wasn't just anyone. She was part of our family's early success. I took her work and built my company from it. She trusted me, and I betrayed her." Regina's heart tightened. "All this time, and you never told me." The mansion felt unusually quiet when Regina and her father arrived. The usual hum of activity, the servants, the luxury, it all seemed meaningless now. Regina's thoughts were elsewhere, on Angela, her mother, and the years of stolen work that had built her father's empire. She went straight to the study, laying out the notes and sketches they had recovered from the abandoned building. Her fingers traced the edges of the papers, each one a reminder of Angela's brilliance, and of the arrogance and greed that had erased it. "We can't just leave this buried," Regina said quietly, almost to herself. Her work, her ideas, they deserve to be seen. Her mother deserves justice. "I was ashamed," he admitted. "I wanted to protect the family name. I wanted to protect you from knowing the mistakes I made. But now, you need to understand what arrogance and greed can do." Regina swallowed. She remembered her own arrogance, how she had mocked the old woman. Now, she realized how closely her behavior mirrored her father's past mistakes. "I don't know how to fix it," she said quietly. "But I want to. I want to make this right." Her father nodded. "Then you have to face it openly. Learn humility, and take responsibility for your actions. That's the only way to honor Angela." Regina looked at him, determined. I will do whatever it takes." In silence. Regina knew the path ahead would be difficult, and public humiliation might still come. But for the first time, she understood the weight of truth, and that it was her responsibility to carry it. Her father nodded, his face tight. "You're right. We have to start small. Speak to people who worked with Angela, track down contacts, document everything. We need proof before anything else. And we must support her mother directly." Regina picked up her phone and started making calls. Former colleagues, collaborators, anyone who might still remember Angela and her contributions. Each call was tense, some skeptical, some surprised, but slowly, she began to piece together a network that could help bring the truth to light. Hours passed. She drafted letters, prepared plans to restore credit for Angela's work, and outlined financial compensation for her mother. Every step reminded her how much responsibility she carried, not as a spoiled child of a billionaire, but as someone accountable for her family's past wrongs. Her father watched silently. "I thought wealth could erase guilt," he admitted. "But it can't. And you're learning that the hard way." Regina met his eyes. "I'm ready. This is bigger than embarrassment. This is real, and I won't run from it." By nightfall, the first steps had been taken. Regina knew the road ahead was long, and the world might still judge her. But for the first time, she felt a purpose beyond wealth or pride. She was acting, not for image, not for revenge, not for punishment, but for truth and justice. Regina and her father drove to the old woman's house with a sense of purpose. The journey was quiet, but the air was heavy with the weight of everything they needed to make right. They were not coming with excuses or empty words. This time, they came with action. When the old woman opened the door, she looked at them with steady eyes, measuring their intentions. Mr. Madu spoke first. "We've come to apologize, and to begin making things right. Angela's work, her life, her memory, it should have been honored from the start." Regina stepped forward, her voice firm and sincere. "We want to support you, to honor Angela properly. Not with words, but with deeds. We'll make sure her contributions are recognized, and that you are cared for, as you should have been all these years." The old woman studied them for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "It is time," she said simply. "Time for Angela's legacy to live, and for truth to be restored." From that day, plans were set in motion. They built a grand mansion for the old woman, providing her with comfort and security she had never known. In Angela's name, they established a charity and orphanage home organization, ensuring her legacy would help countless children in need. To honor Angela further, a portion of the company shares was put in the old woman's name, guaranteeing that her daughter's work would never be forgotten, and that her family would benefit from the empire they had once wronged. Seeing the tangible results of their efforts, the old woman finally smiled. She placed her hand on Regina's shoulder. "You have done well. You have learned humility and responsibility. My blessing is yours." Regina felt a wave of relief and gratitude. For the first time, she understood that true power was not in wealth or status, but in making things right, honoring those who were wronged, and leaving a legacy that truly mattered. Peace was restored, justice was done, and the wounds of the past began to heal. The old woman's blessing sealed the end of a long, painful chapter, and marked the beginning of a new one, where respect, humility, and honor would guide their lives. True greatness is not measured by wealth or status, but by humility, responsibility, and the courage to make things right. Arrogance and pride may bring temporary power, but real honor comes from acknowledging past mistakes, taking responsibility for them, and using your resources to restore justice and help others.